Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Microsoft Zero to Hero. This is .NET July edition. It's another weekend, and we will talk about another topic in .NET. I hope you're well and good enough everywhere you are in this blue planet, whether it's morning or evening or afternoon, having a good time next to your families. I am Shahab, the host for tonight's session, and I would like to introduce our community. We are Microsoft Zero to Hero. We are part of Microsoft Learn, and we are a community built by the community, and we are sharing our knowledge together because we believe growing is a team effort. And the only code of conduct is to be respectful and to hear each other's opinion. There's always things to learn. You could follow us on different social medias, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter, and join our community on Microsoft Learn. And if you are interested in the topics and the upcoming sessions, go to the calendar section, and there you could see what will be the next. But today we have Mo Pazuki, who is going to talk about integrating Microsoft Entra ID with Aspire. I would like to, without further ado, invite Mo on the stage.
Hello,
Hi.
hello, Sam.
Hello.
Hi, you're right. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for being here with
Ah,
us.
thank you, thank you. I'm great. Thanks for having me today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here at Microsoft Zero
Great.
to Hero community. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much. Then the stage is yours. I will bring up your desktop, and let's have fun.
Oh, lovely. That's great. So I believe you can see my desktop. All good?
We are seeing the PowerPoint slide. Yes.
Yeah, lovely. That's great. So, hello and welcome everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Mo, senior software engineer at Waddingham, part of Howden. Today, we are going to talk about an interesting topic about integrating Microsoft Entra with Spire. At first, we are going to have an overview about backend architecture, which we are going to use clean architecture. So we need to have an understanding of how our application is infrastructured and structured. And then we are going to talk about BFF, or backend for front end, and how we have used React to create this pattern. Then we are going a little bit talk about role-based access control vs policy-based access control. And then we are going to see how Microsoft Spire integrate all these concepts and services with each other, and how it orchestrates all these projects. And that's actually how magic happens. And then we're going to take a look at the Entra, and finally, after having these concepts, and then we have a good understanding of how the application is built, we're going to see a live demo. So without further ado, I'm going to first talk about the architecture. So before actually getting into the identity part, first let's set the stage for the backend architecture. In its core, a clean architecture is about separating concerns. And dependency rules is everything points inwards. So at the heart of application, we have domain, which all our entities, value objects, and business rules reside there. And there is no dependency in the domain. Then on top of that, we have application layer. In the application, we have use cases, CQRS commands and queries, and all the interfaces here. But here's the thing. I'm going actually to show you in the code soon, but I'm going to call this kind of structure called as pragmatic clean architecture, not pure clean architecture. Because in my code, and soon we are going to look into it, in the application layer, there is a dependency to the entity framework core. And I have not actually intentionally used the repository or generic repository pattern at this stage. And you might say, yeah, there's a dependency, so it's not clean architecture. But as I said, it is. It's pragmatic clean architecture and not just pure architecture. And as I said, soon we're going to talk about these concepts in detail in the code, so it's much more clear for you. And on the top of that, we have infrastructure and presentation. In the presentation, as its name implies, we have for instance, APIs or your front end, whatever it is. And in the infrastructure, we have the implementation of all the contract you have in the applications. So now we have somehow a good understanding of backend architecture. In the backend, as I've just mentioned, we are using the clean architecture and we use minimal API to expose all those APIs we have. And we have, as I said, domain, application, and infrastructure presentation in all the backends concept. But for the front end, we are using the React and BFF or backend for front end pattern. But what does it mean really? Traditionally, the UI directly called the backend. So in the first place, you had cross-origin resource sharing issue or course issue, because usually front end has different domain, and when it's called the backend, because they're completely different domain, so you need to add course policies in the backends. And apart from that one, we had some security concerns there too, which of course I'm going to talk about that bit a little bit in next slide. But we had, as you know, we had loads of issues. To resolve all these issues, we can use BFF, backend for frontend. But it means that the browser will directly call the Next.js server, and Next.js server is hosted on your applications. So it's quite secure. And that one directly call your backend. So there's no course issue anymore. So it means that it's more secure because you're not exposing anything to the clients. And the thing that really magically actually improve everything here is using Aspire. Because if you don't know it, if you don't use the Aspire, it means that you have to configure loads of things, all the configuration, environment variables, and loads of things in the front end to communicate with the backend, and with the backend to the database. And you all know how complicated it could be, honestly. So here, actually, Aspire come into play.
So,
It just orchestrates between all these projects. Tom, is there any questions?
yeah, I have a question. Like, so
Mhm.
I'd like to have a clear understanding of the setup here. So we have a React SPA application in the front end, and we have like a
Yeah.
backend, and the
Mhm.
authentication and everything is, I assume, with Entra ID, right? And
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
backend is doing the heavy lifting in that part and just sharing a cookie with the front end. So unlike the previous ways that we had like the jot at the front end, we don't have it in the front end anymore, right?
Mhm.
And the Aspire
Yep.
then helps orchestrate all of these things for us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
got it.
And the thing is in the front end, the browser directly called with the Next.js server,
Hmm.
and Next.js server directly called with the backend. And that's why we don't have that cross-origin resource sharing anymore, or we
Right.
don't have security and vulnerability issues at all. And by using Aspire, it orchestrates all for us. We
Mhm.
don't need to be worried about the connection string, environment variables. Magically, we just need to hit F5 on the development environment,
Yeah.
and that's it. It will do all the magic. And I reckon, honestly, it could be my idea, but I reckon because of AI, I mean, this Aspire is overrated. Underrated, because it's really amazing topic. But as I said, everyone talk about AI, so that's why no one talk about Aspire. But if there were no AI, I'm sure everyone were talking about the Aspire.
Yeah,
But
but if anyone is interested in the Aspire and how it could also integrate with AI topics, we had a
yeah,
couple of months
exactly.
ago a session with Maddie, which is a
Mm,
product
I
owner
saw
of the
that. Yeah,
Aspire, and that's also another one. I will share the link in the chat, and if anyone is
yeah,
interested,
yeah.
or
Please
wants.
do. And it was honestly quite amazing. I
Yeah,
learned a lot and how we can simply integrate
yeah.
AI with the Aspire, which is quite amazing. And Another topic I just mentioned in previous slides about the using BFF was about it's safer if you use BFF instead of the traditional way of using the front end. Because in the BFF pattern, all the configuration like access token or your secret, they all reside in the server, not in the browser. In the traditional front-end development, all, for instance, access token reside in the user's browser. So if you send an API request, you can saw in the header, you can see the access token, and it might lead to cross-site scripting attack. However, of course, we have some solution for it, but yeah, we had these kind of issues. And with using the BFF, and we have power of server-side rendering. So all these concepts like secret, access token, they all reside in these servers. And actually, because there is no access token or any kind of secret or sensitive information in the browser, we don't need to be worried about these kind of attacks, which is quite interesting. And now let's a bit talk about the identity part. The thing is, when it comes to the authorization, we can have two kind of implementation. Usually it's either role-based access control or it's policy-based access control. In this project, I have used the policy, but what's the difference? The thing is, traditionally, I mean, mostly we've used the role-based access control. And I mean, it's a good actually implementation for the authorization. I'm not saying it's bad or policy is better. No, it completely depends on your project. But in the role-based access control, we have some roles like admin, region A admin, project B admin, and we can have loads of roles. And maintaining all these roles could be quite complicated. And what makes it worse is the fact that you want to change, I mean, consider that you have, for instance, 10,000 users or 1,000 users, and you want to assign these roles to these users. And now you want to amend these rules. It's just honestly a nightmare because you have to assign each user new roles or I don't know, change the rules. I mean, its maintenance is really hard when it comes to loads of users or roles. But on the other hand, we have concept of policy. In policy, we're talking about the rules. In the rules, we have some requirements or handlers. And the thing is, for instance, we can say admin policy. It means that when we have admin, for instance, policy, it means that we can have combination of rules. For instance, admin can view, admin can delete or edit or whatever. So it's completely up to you to have these kind of policies. And in the future, if you suddenly decide to change these policies, you can simply change the rules. For instance, now you can say, no, the admin users from today, they can't actually delete anything. So you simply change the rules and remove that delete policy rule. And if I want to show it in one line, this kind of policy concept, it's exactly like this. Here, for instance, we say if the scope has books.write, then it means that it can edit the book. And that's the definition of the can edit the books policy. And it could be as simple as this. And of course, in the code, I'm going to talk about all these concepts in more detail.
Okay, but the policy is more like rules and policies that we are defining, and we have more flexibility, right? For example, we could have like admins with certain age, like I don't know, plus 18, and admins like for minus 18, and they could have like different permissions and rules. And then we don't have this explosion that you mentioned in the RBAC scenarios, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Yeah, and maintenance, it could be much easier. But okay, as you know, in the software engineer world, we don't have the right or wrong answer. I mean,
everything
these are just
context,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it completely depends on what you are trying to resolve. I mean, policy is a good one in some scenarios, and but essentially, if you have a small project, of course, you don't need the policy complexity. And role RBAC is the best option for you. It completely depends on you. But yeah, these are two major implementation of the authorization in the whole project.
Understood.
Yeah, lovely. So now we have somehow good understanding of our applications, front end and back end. But the thing is, in the Entra, and you're going to see it on the Entra portal soon. But in Entra, we can have all these projects as one and create just one application, which is honestly nightmare to manage and control. Or we can separate our concerns for our project. Here, as you can see, I have an API, React, and Scholar. A Scholar is, is exactly like Swagger. It's just new replacement for this Swagger, but you can use whatever you like. Here, I have used Scholar. But the thing is, API is responsible for all the authentication and authorizations, and it's our application really. React is front end, the site the user can see, and Scholar is the API explorer, which only is visible on the development environment. Otherwise, in the event we are going to deploy it, it's not really necessary to expose our APIs in my scenario. Because, it's quite safe. I've used, as I said, BFF. So front-end users just directly work with the React, and in the backend, there is a connection between the React site and the Scholar. Node.js is handling that bit. And they're actually not exposed publicly. And by using the Azure, we can put all these containers in a private network. And the thing is, all we have currently, we're using the Microsoft Entra, but they are just identity provider. It could be Keycloak, or it could be different identity provider, whatever you like. And you can simply switch between the identity providers. And in this meeting, we're going to talk about Entra, and hopefully in the next one, we are going to talk about Keycloak. And that one is quite amazing, especially when you're working locally. So my idea is like, when you're developing an application locally, you don't need to use the Entra. So on your local development, you can use the Keycloak, but when it comes to the production, you can use the Entra. So it's quite
Are they compatible, or is there any compatibility issue if you want to do that, or are you demoing it in the future?
Yeah, today we are going to talk about the Entra, and in the future, hopefully, we are going to talk about the Keycloak, and yeah, they're quite compatible. No issue at all. You can just simply switch, and that's easy. It's just few configuration, and that's it. And now it's time for the demo. So let me get back to the code. I believe you can see my desktop and all is good, yes?
So far, yes. We are seeing the anti-gravity.
Yeah, exactly.
ID, yes.
Yeah, it's free and it's awesome, honestly. And of course, I do advise using that one. But anyway, you're happy to whatever you like. The first thing I mentioned in the slides was about the pragmatic clean architecture and not pure clean architecture. And it's actually here. In the application layer, as you can see, I have used the DB set. But instead of the DB set, because DB set is coming from the Entity Framework core, as you know. But you might argue and say, no, you're infringing the clean architecture rules, because in the application layer, we have dependency to a third-party application, Entity Framework, and that's infringe of law. No, it's not clean architecture. But actually, yes, it is. The thing is, in my experience at least, when you develop an application and when it goes to the production, it's almost impossible you change the database. I don't know, have you changed the database when it goes to the production further? I mean, for instance, you deploy it and 1 year later you say, no, let's change the database from SQL Server to MySQL Server.
Well, I think like exposing DB set like to the application layer itself is a controversial topic, and you just
Yeah.
opened a can of worm, I guess.
Yeah, it
Well,
is. Yeah.
no, we usually we don't like change the database, but now I'm curious like how it would
Mm,
look like, because a DB set could expose a
mm,
queryable, right? And if
yeah.
you do, in domain-centric architectures, usually you're using like
Mm,
something like domain-driven design, and you want
yeah.
to have like control over the read models that you are returning. So, but
Mm,
now you're exposing that to the application layer to decide, to
mhm,
do more filtering, to do more projections, right? How do you
yeah.
deal with that?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. That's the thing. Yeah.
if
I
it's
mean,
not getting off the topic, of course.
no, it's not. Actually, it is exactly in topic. But the thing is, it completely depends on what you're seeking, honestly.
Mhm.
The thing is, in this case, as you know, entity framework anyway, in itself, it's implementing our repository
Yeah.
pattern. If you want to stick with the clean and pure clean architecture, instead of the exposing dataset, you must here use the iRepository pattern.
Mhm.
So either you're going to use generic repository pattern, or you're going to use the repository, and for each entity you're going to write repository. Then you can have ultimate control on what you're exposing, because you're using a proxy on top of your current DB sets.
Mhm.
In that case, you can have control on everything. But here in my scenarios, I'm exactly as you said, I'm exposing the DB self itself, because here when it comes to the, for instance, handling all the codes in the application layers, when I receive the all the commands or all the, let me find them in the, anyway, I mean, because I have zoomed the whole page on it, I can't find the simply my command. But the thing is, when you receive them, in my scenarios, that's fine, because I can control. I mean, I do. I have, I mean, access to everything a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's fine. It's the from my perspective in this project, I don't have any problem with that bit. But yeah, if you have some kind of project, as you said, they're seeking pure clean architecture, or they
Mhm.
want to have ultimate control on what they're exposing, definitely they must go with the uh, repository pattern or generic repository, whatever is suitable for that project. But in this one, yeah, we have this scenario.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it's quite pragmatic and shippable to the production. The other actually concept I talked about was the infrastructure. In the infrastructure, I have infrastructure persistence, which, as its name implies, I have the all the implementation for the connecting to the database, like migration, mappings, stuff like that. And in the infrastructure, the one of the most important bits is implementation of the policies.
Mhm.
So here, I mean, these policies actually are static, but of course we can make it dynamic. But for the sake of simplicity, I have considered them as a hard-coded. And here it says, this is the admin policies. And in the admin policies, I have supposed that in my project, I have these actually permissions or roles. The user can either view, or they can create, edit, or delete. And that's all the operation feasible in this project. So I can play with these roles or permission to create policies. For instance, if a user has admin policy, it means that user must have view, create, edit, and delete permissions in the scope in the access token we receive. And of course, I'm going to show you what I mean. But admin means having all of them simultaneously, all these roles. But edit, in the edit, it means that you can just view, edit, and create, and you can't delete, while admin can delete. But edit policies, no. If you're editor, you can't delete anything. And when it comes to the viewer policy, it means that you just need to have either of these roles. So the relationship between these permission is or, not and. Previously, it was and. You must have all of them. Otherwise, you're not admin. But if you have either of these, for instance, if your scope has a role, edit, or create, then it means that you can see the site. That's absolutely fine. And if I want to show you quickly how I have assigned these policies to my endpoint, here, as you can see, I have used because I'm using the minimal API, I've just used the required authorization and the policy names, and that's it. And how does it look like when it comes to the real application? Let me run the Aspire. As you can see, Aspire did all the magic. And now if I just open the dashboard, as you can see, there we go. We have everything and everything has been configured. What we have here, if we have a database, which is Postgres, we have admin side, which is the presentation, and then we have API, which I'm using the Scholar. And the thing is, this project is only visible in the local environment, local development environment. And when I open that one, at first, if I don't authorize, if I just try to send a request, as you can see, I'm getting the unauthorized error, which is expected. But if I click on the authorize button here, as you can see, it just sign me in and I have access token. Let me copy that one and let me send the request again. And as you can see, yeah, we have 200 and we have 2 records. But let's see what's inside this access token. I reckon I didn't completely copy everything. Yeah, there we go. So here you can see in this access token, we have, loads of information like the name. And the thing that matters here is in this access token, I have these permissions or these roles: view, create, delete, and edit. Because my user has all these permission roles, then admin policy, this one is, let me minimize that one. This one is applicable for this user because this user has everything there, and he has the user has the permission scope, which I'm going to talk about that soon. But yeah, here, as you can see, I can simply authenticate. But what really just happened? How can I actually simply authenticate here? Or let me show you the website. As you can see, it seamlessly, I was just logged in. Let me sign out just for the sake of presentation. And now if I just try to sign in, the password is 123. Yes, that's right. As you can see, I can seamlessly log in. I can create or update these books. I can remove them. Let me get rid of that one. Yeah, I just remove that one, or I can edit it. I did this one because I'm admin. But how I have configured this bit, and that's the magic here. So the first step is Entra. To prepare application, after creating our application, backend and front end, the first step is Microsoft Entra. And when you open, just log into the Entra portal. The first thing you need to create is go to the Manage Tenants and click on the Create Tenant. Here, you need to select an external tenant. I'm not going to create a new one, and that's it. You just need to enter a name, and then it just create the tenant. Here I'm using this MR panel tenant, which is already selected. And after creating your tenant, the next step is create your application. As I actually showed you in the presentation, I need to create 3 applications. One of them is API, which is responsible for getting all the APIs and interacting the application with the entry point for application, as its name implies. This one, this application is a Scholar. This one, which is just actually usable in the development environment. And the last one is Portal, which is the website, the site that the user can see and interact. And here, user needs to sign in and do all this stuff. So the first one is, as I said, creating the API. And the only thing you need to do is creating that application is quite simple. You just need to click on the create applications and just enter a name. And for the API, you don't need to change anything. The only thing you need to be sure is selecting single tenant, and you don't need to enter the redirect URL at this point for the API. Let me take a look at inside what is in the end. That's that one. So when you suppose that I have created this API. So before changing anything, the first thing I need to do is to create a scope. And what does this scope mean? It means that, because as I said, API is our heart of applications. So it needs to expose these scope to the access token. So here I'm going to create a new scope called permissions. Like this, let me show you here. I have already created that one. This one. You just need to enter permission or whatever you like. I've called it permission. And the description for that one is that this permission scope, it has all these roles. These roles you can see. So first step is just creating a scope. And as you can see, I have created that scope. You just need a name and then you can set the display name and a description, and that's it. After creating this scope, you need to come actually here in the app roles and create different roles you have. Here in my scenario, I just have view, delete, edit, and create. You need to simply just click on the app roles and just write them down, like edit, whatever. You need to select a user and group, and the value is just edit and the description, exactly something like this.
Is there a connection between the exposed scopes, like the scopes that the API is exposing, and the roles that you are defining in here?
Yeah, actually, this scope, you mean, these permissions, yep. This one is responsible for actually showing these roles to the users.
Okay.
And actually, soon when I'm going to create next application, you can see we must assign these scopes to those applications we want. So here we're explicitly saying this is the scopes, and only applications who have access to this scope, they have allowed to call these roles, for instance.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a completely security on top of security concepts to say it's quite secure, and it's not something you can simply, for instance, write down your scope ID here and say, yeah, my application can use that one because I've just copy and paste your scope ID. No, it's not going to work that one. So here in the application, the first step was exposing API and then creating app roles. And in the authentication, as you can see, you don't need to define anything. You don't need to change here anything at all. And that's it. After creating the applications, before moving out from that one, you need these client ID and the tenant ID here. And if I go to the app setting here. So there you go. So here is, as you can see, here is the API, our API side of our applications. And I need to copy this information, like client ID here, as you can see, client ID, audience ID, they are always the same. And tenant ID, I can just copy and paste them from here, as you can see here. And the instance ID, to find the instance ID, you can click on the endpoint and you can copy that one and just paste it here. Just make sure you put the your tenant ID here at the first, and that's it. That's all the configuration you need to do. And now application bit configuration has been completed. The next step, as I just showed you in these slides, now the application has been completed. Now we need to think about the Scholar and the React. So now we need to actually create a Scholar. I mean, it could be this one, but I started with the Scholar because it's development bit. So I just create this application. Suppose that I have created that one. First thing you need to do is to go to the API permission this time and click on the add permission. And then from my API, select the permission which we created in the previous step. But because I have already selected that one, permission, here when I click on the add permission, you can't see anything in my API. But yeah, I mean, if you create something new, you can see it here. As you can see, you just need to select that one, the permission from the step one, and it means that this application has permission to use the exposed API by the exposed scopes by the API application. Here we just add that one, and then you need to click on the grant admin consent because you're the admin in the Entra portal. So as an administrator, you have permission to assign this scope. So you can grant these permissions. Now,
sorry.
Go on.
Go on. I think I just interrupted you in the middle.
No problem. So okay. It means that, So it means that now these API, these Scholar application have permission to use the exposed scopes by the API applications. So now, is there any question, Charles?
Yes, we have a question, and it's regarding, because you were talking about the tenant ID and the client ID or application IDs before. And then there's a question was, are these IDs considered as secrets or sensitive data that we should not share? I assume.
Yeah, you're right, 100% right. And the thing is, when, for instance, if you're working in your company, definitely you shouldn't expose these information, and you shouldn't commit this information to your repository. And it's better you always use the client, .NET secret. As you know, we have here, we can have access to the .NET user secrets. So these information shouldn't be committed on the repository. And in your project, they must reside in the user secrets. But here, just for the sake of, presentation, I have just explicitly put it here.
I assume you're going to delete those client IDs and applications from your
definitely.
That's why you're easily sharing them here.
Definitely, that's for sure. And the thing is, your local development, you must store them in the user secrets, user secrets, and you shouldn't never push them on the repository. But when it comes to the production, let me show you. Let me have someone start open. So let me find it.
So from my experience, when you're dealing with Azure, Azure Key Vault is like one of the resources that you kind of use and put all these secrets and sensitive data there if it is necessary.
Exactly. That's a good point. And here, let me show you one thing. In the development, as you can see, honestly, I'm just reading all the configuration from the app settings and from the setting configuration. But as you said, when it comes to the production, definitely we need to use for instance, some solution like Azure Key Vaults. So here, if you look at the production environment extension, this file will be used when it comes to the production. And here in the production, I'm using the Key Vault to store all these sensitive information like secrets and stuff like that. All these, secret information, they will be stored in the Key Vaults. And that's the best practice we should always consider. Yep. Hopefully, I've answered that
these
question.
production environment extensions and development environment extensions, I assume these are part of the Aspire, and we will get back to how your Aspire is set up after.
Yeah, exactly. These two files, actually, I have created myself. The thing is, when it's development, it's going to use this extension, this environment. But when it comes to the production, which in the end, I'm going to show you what I mean, but it's going to use this one because in the production environment, I'm using the Key Vaults and stuff like that. But in the development environment, no, I don't need to use as you can see, this is the production. I use the Key Vault. But in the development environment, no, I'm just storing the secrets in the development or in the user secrets. But yeah,
good.
That's the best practices we have anyway for the
I hope I hope that answered the question. Sorry for the interruption. Go ahead, Mo.
No problem. That was a good question, honestly. So now the Scholar panel project has access to the API. We grant the permissions, and the next bit we need to change is that because a Scholar, as you can see here, let me clear the authentication. We have redirect URL because this one, when it needs to talk with the Entra after successful login, it needs to redirect user to this project. So we need to redirect URL. And that's why I have, when you click on the add redirect URL, for the Scholar one, I have used this single page application. And the reason is because I want to use it as an implicit, I want to use authentication with the concept of implicit flow. That's why I have created as a single page application. And I have just entered the redirect URL, which is URL of my Scholar project, this one. I just copy and paste it here. And here in the setting, we need to check that one to implement the implicit flow. And it means that now if I just copy and paste all those information and click on the authorize, as you can see, just sign me in. And if I want to show you how this bit has been configured, there we go. In the development settings, we have client ID, scope, and authorization. And these information are coming directly from here. If I go to the overview, and here, as you can see, I have client ID and tenant ID, which I have here because I have used the implicit flow. I just need the client ID. And I just need to paste the scope, and that's really important because, as I said, these permission, it holds all these roles as I just shown you here. So I need to send this scope, which is coming from, just for the sake of making sure everything, we are on the same page here. When I, there we go. Here you can copy the scope from here and paste it here. And the last bit is using the authorization, which you can find the authorization URL from endpoint and from here. I use the V2, that one. You just need to copy that authorization URL and paste it here. So it means that when you run the project, Spire automatically set all those configuration, read them, and put it here. So you just need to, and you can see the selected scope here, its permission. You just need to click on the authorize and use the implicit flow to just sign you in, and you have a valid access token. So, is there any questions so far?
No, all
No,
good.
lovely.
Yeah, and we have like around 20-25 minutes.
I mean, almost done. Yeah, that's right. So, based on the presentation, the last actually bit is the React side. For the React, I mean, after creating this app, which is quite simple, you just need to provide a name. You do the same. Same. You just do the same rule. You go to the API permission, click on the add permission. My API, you just add this one, which you have created for the API, so it means that it's there, and you have permission to call the API project. And after that, you need to go to the authorization and click on the add redirect. And this time you need to select the web. And you just need to provide the return URL. And don't forget, you don't need to check anything here because it's a web you're hosting on the Azure. The only important scenario is that how Entra is going to trust this application. And the answer is by using the secret. And here you need to create a secret. You just need to click on the new and just set expiration and name, and that's it. It just gives you a secret here. And you need to copy, of course, that secret and paste it here in the, let me show you in the presentation. Or I reckon it's better I just search my name. There we go. So this is, as you can see here, this is my admin or web interface, which is React. So here we need these information. This one, secret, is here. It has been used here, as you can see.
But
This
this
one
app
is
is
here.
hosted on a server on some trusted server, so it's like using the back channel for communication. So it's not on the client side itself.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Because we're using the BFF backend for front end. These servers are stored in your Azure. Here I have used the Azure Container Service, but
Okay.
of course you can use whatever you like. But yeah, they are all stored in the server side and not in the client.
Mhm.
So that's advantage of using the BFF pattern. So we have the secret here. Just save it here. And as you know, I mean, like previously, this environment.local file, you can't and you shouldn't push this actually file to the repository because, as you just mentioned previously, or some of our friends with us, this contains all the secret and sensitive information. So they shouldn't be pushed to the repository. So here we have these secret. You just need to copy and paste it. Then you need to go to the overview, copy and paste the client and the tenant ID and whatever. You just need to put them there. But here for the scope, you can find that scope from the from the API permissions. This one, you just need to copy that one and paste it here. But here, because it's the front-end application, apart from that information about the rules that the user has, I need to have extra information. That's why I have asked for more scopes like email and OpenID and stuff like that. And the last bit is the OpenID Connect, which, as I said, you can find this information here in the Azure portal. That one, OpenID Connect. You just need to copy and paste this information, and that's it. Now, if after configuring this bit, it means that your application is almost ready, but not completely complete yet. And
No,
the
just
reason is
one question to complete the puzzle in my head. If you go back to the IDE, in here you are setting up for the React application, right? And in the scopes you are telling it like which scopes it is requesting to have permissions on that, right? And
yeah,
this permissions scope is is the scope that was exposed by the panel API, like the backend API itself.
Yep,
Okay. And then that scope also involves the roles that you mentioned inside.
exactly. This
Okay.
one, yeah, permission, exactly. And as you can see in this sample access token, if you say to the Entra, I have this scope, and of course I have permission to
Mm-hmm.
call this scope, then give me all the roles the user can have, and then Entra return that one. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. How
Mm-hmm.
does it understand which user has what roles? And it's actually implementation of this bit. Here in the programming, in the server side, we have said the admin has this role, but how we can configure that bit on the Entra? On the Entra, first you need to, after configuring your app, you need to go to the groups. And first you need to create your groups like
Mm-hmm.
admin, editor, and these groups are like these policies you have. You just create them. And then after that bit, you need to go to after creating your groups, you need to go to the enterprise applications. And when you get there, you have to select APIs. And in that one,
This is the backend API that is exposing the permissions scope.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, API, this is for the backend, and it's
Yeah.
entry point for the whole backend and for all application anyway. And after that one, you need to select users and groups.
Mm-hmm.
And if you click on the add, you need to select, for instance, first you need to select the group. For instance, as I said here, I just have two groups, admin and the editor. You need to select the group, and eventually it will be something like this. Let me show you. Oh no, it's easier. I click on that one. And after selecting the group, you need to select the roles.
Mm-hmm.
Roles, as you can remember, for the API, I created these roles:
Yeah.
create, delete, edit, and view. So that's why I can see them. So you need to select one of them, and eventually it will be something like this. So it means that admin can, for instance, edit. Let me collapse that one. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, on the right, there is one
I,
column to say, yeah, it's
I
about the,
I think you could also collapse the menu, but like there is an
oh,
arrow
yeah,
on the
yeah,
top.
that one.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully, but
Uh,
yeah, that's right. Then let me go to the detail of that one. So here in this one, it means that, yeah, anyway, let me close that one. But anyway, here the admin user can, this one is for the read, edit, view, and the delete.
okay.
That's why we have,
I think that I have a complete picture now. Correct me if I'm wrong. So you created an application called Panel
mhm,
API, which
yeah,
has a scope that was exposed, and then there were all the roles, all the permissions that this
exactly,
application could have. Then you went to then you created an admin group and a viewer group and an editor group, right? And then here in
exactly,
the user and groups of the panel API, the application, you are assigning individually those roles and groups to each other, right?
exactly.
And if someone is
That's it.
part of these groups, then they will automatically from this get those permissions.
Exactly. And
Ah,
here's the
interesting.
magic. Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. Here we just, as you said, here in the groups, we say, for instance, admin group can read, write, whatever, all those roles we have. And for
Mhm.
instance, editor here can just read, edit, and the view the site. It just needs one more permission. And that's it. So it means that if you go to the, for instance, if I go to the groups, and in the admin groups, currently my user, Bob Smith, is admin. So it means that when I sign in, I can see the edit button here.
Mhm.
But let me sign out real quick. And now in the intro, I'm going to remove Bob from the admin. And I'm going to add it to the editor. Members, add members. I'm going to select users. Bob, select that one. So there we go. And I will just sign in. 1, 2, 3.
And by the way, don't use 123 as your password. This is a demo.
Definitely, we shouldn't use that one. As you can see, you can't now can't delete the book, for instance, yeah, because it doesn't have access to that one. So here is all the scenarios you need to create. So as you said, let me quickly show you one thing. In the application, app registration, API, now we have a better understanding or a better picture of the whole application. As you can see here, we just expose the scope, and here we say we have these roles. And then we create groups on top of this role to say admin, for instance, has edit, whatever, those permissions.
But you define the groups and you define the scope and the app roles inside the app registration, but the assignment of the roles and the groups was happening in the enterprise applications, right?
Exactly. Good point. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole, scenario which we have here. And here, the last bit is, we just, let me go back to the presentation. And the last bit which I'm going to talk about quickly, brief, is about the deploying this project. So after configuring everything on your computer, and as you just mentioned, make sure you don't commit those secret information to the repo and you're using the .user secret or other solution you have. Anyway, after that one, you can simply deploy your project by just simply two commands: spire publish and spire deploy. But what's the difference? If I go to the command prompt, let me start the application. If I write spire publish, which should be first, we can of course directly type spire deploy, but first it's better we write the spire publish. And here's the thing: when you write spire publish, it just asks for all these secret information. For instance, like as you can see, I don't know, tenant ID, audience, client ID, whatever, all these secret information here. So we just type them for once here. I'm not going to go through it because it might take up to 40 minutes to deploy the whole Spire
how does
application.
Spire know what is a secret and what is just a configuration value?
Good question. It completely depends on your configuration here in this file. Let me open it for production. It completely depends on what you have written here. Here, for instance, I've created keywords and I have set some next authentication. It's a secret, as you can see, and whatever. It completely depends on your configuration.
Yeah.
So I'm saying save these information on the keywords and ask for once on my environment. So it's going to save all these information in the Spire for quick if I want to, I reckon. If I want to show it in the your file in the probably Spire in the Spire in the deployment. I have not deployed yet, but yeah, I have deployed just one time. You can see all this configuration will be saved here in the production, for instance, and it just save all these configuration. And the next time, you just need to click on the Spire deploy, and it just deploy your application to the Spire, and you don't need to be worried about anything. And the good thing here is that you have nitty-gritty access to do whatever you like. For instance, here, as you can see, I have said the backup retention should be 7 days, or use this CPU or memory when it comes to the production, or even scale to 0 when, for instance, because it's using the app container, scale to 0, scale 0. Let me search for the 0. Configure a scale to 0, as you can see here. So it means that when the, for instance, API, there is no interaction with the API, it's going to scale to 0. So Microsoft is not going to charge you anyway.
So is it more or less now you are telling me that you have like a Plumi or a Bicep file in here that you also like create your resources and publish them?
Yeah, you can create your resource, publish them, and whatever you like. It's completely up to you. I mean, it completely depends on you what you need. And that's really magic of Aspire because you have honestly nitty gritty to configure whatever you like at every scale you like. And you can even go with the default. You don't need to actually configure it. It's not a must. But yeah, of course, it's good to have that one, to have a bespoke development environment. And yeah, it honestly just bring us to the end of this demo. And of course, I have written an article about this project, which you can see on my blog, dev.to or you can just go to my GitHub and clone this project. And don't forget to give it a star if you like. And just practice and learn with each other. And don't forget to ask me a question. I'm
Do
always
you,
happy to answer.
I have a question about like the Aspire deploy. Do you know if we already have an environment? Like if you deploy it to one environment and then we change some configuration, does it also had like some sort of a state comparison or a state a
Mm.
management that only applies to the state change, or is it like absolutely like a new environment? I have to bring down the previous one and create a new one.
I mean, I have, I mean, based on my experience, I had these kind of scenarios and I have changed, for instance, some configuration and the code. And each time when I just deploy Spire
Mhm.
as actually magically or somehow, it's going to understand what was the differences and it's going to implement your changes. And it's incremental like. So if you change something, you can trust on the Spire to just go and it will just increase or decrease or whatever, change the configuration for you, and you don't need to be worried about it. And that's the whole magic of Aspire. However, in worst case scenario, I mean, I have not faced this scenario, but
Mhm.
if, as you said, uh, for some reasons, I mean, it can't actually compare or upgrade your new environment for whatever reason it is, you can write simply aspire.destroy and it just destroy your previous configuration
Okay.
and just deploy it as a brand new. But of course, it's practical only in the development environment.
Mhm.
However, it was not the case, honestly. For me, it just completely understand all the previous changes and new changes and just do all the tricks and magic in the backend. And yeah, you don't need to be worried about it.
Does it also kind of connect to Entra ID, and does it un- I know there are like integration parts in the Spire. For example, I could add Postgres as a database to my Spire, and then it
Mhm.
spins up a database for me, either in a Docker
Uh,
container or somewhere in the Azure containers if we deploy that, right? Uh, does it
yeah.
also do some configuration parts for the Entra ID part, or is that part we need to nevertheless handle ourselves?
That's a good question. Honestly, for the Aspire, for the Entra, I'm not aware of that bit, if there is. However, as you know, it's an open source community and everyone are taking part. For instance, for the
Yeah.
Kicklog we have. But for the Entra, I'm not honestly 100% sure about that bit because I have written all the codes from the code as you just saw. So the communication is like, I mean, throughout all the configuration we have written here. Uh, but based on my knowledge, not yet, but I might
Mhm.
be wrong. And yeah, I'm not 100% sure about that
Okay.
one.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much. I don't see any question in the audience. If there is, feel free to add them in the chat, please. If
Yeah,
not,
sure.
then thank you so much, Mo, for joining. It was really, really interesting to see all these connections between like the roles and the scopes. It's always like for me confusing which is which and where to connect these things together.
Indeed, it's quite confusing, honestly.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was a big topic, but hopefully I've explained it in a simple way and it's constructive for the audience.
yeah.
And the code is anyway here, there in my GitHub repository, and I've written an article about it. So yeah, just feel free to go through it and ask me any questions you like. Yeah, in the future, of course.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
read the article, check the code in the repository by yourself, and have a very nice day. day, evening, afternoon, and thanks for joining, and thanks for watching if you're watching on demand later on. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye, guys. Bye bye.